Flosstube. Welcome to my channel. I'm Jessie and this is Bobo Jessie Stitches, and today is a Flosstube Extra. I am recording this on March 1st as it's the beginning of the month, and so I was getting ready to do some of my prep work and end of the month work in order to be able to record my Flosstube video, which if everything goes right, even though I'm recording this before I record that video, you have already seen because that got posted at the beginning of the month of March, and this is probably going to get posted a little bit later. And so I thought today would be a good day for me to actually show you and record how I organize my projects and in a digital format. And I really thought maybe you'd be interested. Maybe we can start a trend. I've seen some other people do this, and so maybe it's a trend. So first, I'm going to do a complete shout out to Michelle of the Giddy Stitcher. If you have not been watching her videos, everything's going to be linked below. Go check her out. She is a multi-crafter, talks about lots of different things. Cross-stitching is just but one of them. It's thanks to her that I went down this Notion rabbit hole where she introduced me to Notion, which I had never heard of prior to her video. That as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's it. That's something that I am going to want to try. And so I did. And I will, in full confession, started working on it. And for work first, I incorporated it into my work. And then I started building out a system for my cross-stitching pattern and my cross-stitching. And so that's what I'm going to show you today. So first to her. And I also wanted to shout out that Frizzy Lizzie Stitches, I hope I'm getting that correctly. My apologies if I got that wrong. But she also posted a video of how she uses Notion, and I will also link that down below. The three of us, at least these are the two people I've seen who have used Notion for their cross-stitching projects, is we use it very differently. I'm more similar to how Michelle is compared to how Liz is, but I think that just kind of seeing different ways of people utilizing it, I think you will see how functional Notion is and that it really is a tool that you can build for yourself. So first, you're probably wondering, what's a Notion? So for those of you who do not know what Notion is, and there'll be timestamps for those of you who do know, if you want to just get to the meat of it, all that will be down below in the chapters and you can just click forward. But for those of you who do not know what Notion is, it is marketed as a productivity app, and I think depending on how you use it, it may or may not be viewed as a productivity app, but that's kind of how it's marketed. It is a web-based programming that has a lot of functionality behind it, built on databases. So think in terms of like if you had an Excel spreadsheet, but being able to click into a particular cell and being able to pull out a lot of data from that cell and then be able to pull that into other spreadsheets, into other views, into other types of ways of seeing the information. And it's not a little bit, for me, much more user friendly than working within an Excel program trying to recreate the same information. Now, some of it is still, work in progress for me. I'm still on that learning curve, but the general aspect of it is that it is just really great functionality around databases. There are so many people out there who have videos on how to use Notion for work, for personals, productivity. Some people use it as a second brain, and that's really kind of how I use it in work. So for me, how I use it in work, very much about productivity. It's how I do a brain dump of all the tasks that I have to work on for a particular project. I just kind of keep it open on the side, and when things pop into my head, I'm like, I just go in, put it into a brain dump. It filters into whatever projects I'm working on, so that way when I go back to work on a specific project, I'm in my Notion, I can go in and I can see, oh, these are the tasks related to that project. These are things that, notes that I needed to take for it, etc. Some people use it as a note-taking system where they're in school and it's just a way of organizing all of their information, or if they're working on research papers and things like that. So you can see that kind of functionality that exists there. Now I'm going to let you know that for my work, I actually have purchased and upgraded my Notion to a paid account in order for me able to use its full functionality, being able to upload files for working and things like that. But for my stitching page, which you're about to see, it is a completely free account. I have not upgraded it. I don't have a need for that. So just kind of be aware of that. So just kind of an introduction into the My Notion page for my stitching. It is, for me, not a planner. I use it strictly as a way to track information and be able to track the information, to extract it, to use it in my Flosstube videos going forward, and to be able to just kind of go back and check things and look for information. And then when I am using it to post onto Instagram, I have the hashtags in there. So for me, it is strictly informational rather than a planning tool. Although you will see a little bit of a hint of me trying to use it as a planning tool for 24-hour cross stitch. But that is a tease for in the video a little bit later. But otherwise, you're going to see that I really just use it for tracking purposes. And because I only use it for tracking purposes, it's built that way. It's designed that way. And but that's it. I think that's all you need to know. I am, so let's get into it. All right. So here is my screen, and so this is my Stitchy home page, and you can see how I have it kind of set up. So right here is my logo for my page and my Instagram. So I'm Bobo Jessie Stitches, and so this is kind of the branding logo that I've kind of created for myself. So I uploaded it here. You have the option putting in a picture here for your cover. I have used, you can click various things to pick your photos. There's just so many options. You can upload your own photo. You can download a link. This photo I found from Unsplash, and basically I just kind of Googled, thread or cross stitch or something like that, and then you are able to kind of upload a photo here. So I've seen other people upload photos of their own cross stitching, and I just happen to just pick something off of the Unsplash. And for me, because of the way that I use Notion and the way my visual brain kind of works, I like being able to see everything on a page, but I also like being able to completely reduce everything down to a neat and clean visual appearance. And so that's kind of how I have set up my page. So I call this my stitching home. I have a little quote here from Meraki, which I hope I pronounced correctly, but it's a verb, Greek verb that says to do something with soul, creativity, or love, to put something of yourself into your work, which I think is a fantastic verb. It's a word, and so I have it on here because I feel like that encompasses what I do in my cross stitching. And then at the top, I have basically a handful of things that are shortcuts that I utilize. Now, all of these I don't necessarily use on a regular basis, and it's just ways for me to get through things very quickly. So first off, I have a page for hashtags, and this is where I can go in and copy and paste any hashtags that I have that I put into Instagram or go forward. And right here, I have my 2023 goals. I have my monthly updates. I am currently working on putting together a 24-hour cross stitch planner. And then this is where it goes to my big database. And I'll show you that at the end of what the big database looks like. And so going down on my homepage, I have everything toggled. And so I can open it up to what I need it to be, of what the looks are. And then when I'm not using that particular page, I toggle it back so that way it's just clean and you can't see it. Typically on most days, I have my Stitchy habits open because this is what I use on a more regular basis. And so, but let's kind of go in order. So right here, you're going to go back to my databases. And here is where I have my big cross stitch pattern library. And so everything is linked to that library. And so I have one database that I use effectively for everything. And pretty much anything I have is going to link back to that primary database. And so let's start at the beginning. I have a new pattern. So if you can see in the corner, I received my new steampunk in the series from Forbidden Fiber Co. So I'm going to just show you how I add a project into the database when I get a new project. As you can see here, that it only has space for a new project. And so I click on new and I just enter it in. And so the name of the pattern is Simon Legit. The designer is Forbidden Fiber Co. Now, I don't have the designers listed as a pop-up because there's just so many different designers, and so I don't create a list for me to select from. It's just something I type in. The format is a printed format, so I have it in printed, and then you can see when you click on it, I have the choice of picking either print or digital, and so it's printed. The status, I have 6 different status that I use in my project organization. I have WIP, kitted, need to kit, finish, FFO, fully finished object, and UFO, unfinished object, something that has gone into timeout. I don't know why it's out of order, but I'm going to go ahead and put it back into order here so you can see how easy it is to manipulate everything. And so this was a full kit that I received from Forbidden Fiber Co. So I'm going to go ahead and select kitted. Date of purchase, I don't, I just kind of pick a date. I don't really, it depends on whether or not I know I purchased it. For me, it really is just being able to keep track what year I purchased thing, how long it's been in my list. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just put February 1st because that is when I got it at some point in time. It's not started. I don't have a start date. I have it's a new purchase, so I leave that blank, but you can go in and select a date. And then same thing, I haven't finished it, so it's there. And then I enter the information on the size, and this is going to be the stitch count. So this is 120 by the height is 101. I have it set up for it to automatically do a calculation of the size, which is the average. And then I pick the size category here based off of this average size. It's 110. It's between 100 and 150, so this is considered a medium for my purposes. Then, because this is kitted, I go ahead and enter the information that I have. So the fabric name is Bells on Bobtails. Go ahead and type that in. And then the floss, this is just a called for floss. So Forbidden Fiber Co., I have it abbreviated as FFC. So I click on that. And then the fabric count is a 32 count linen. Go ahead and select that. And then, of course, the fabric is also by Forbidden Fiber Co. And I go ahead and select that. And usually, sometimes things get out of order. And you just, again, just kind of scroll things around. Just know that when you move things in one part of a linked database, it automatically makes a correction in the main database. So anywhere that you make a change, it applies across the board. Now, for right now, I don't have anything under files and media because, well, there's nothing there yet, but I'm going to show you in 1 second what I do with that. And then for a hashtag, there is a Forbidden Fiber Co. hashtag, so I just go ahead and enter that right here. Now, for me, I have 2 different categories that I have at the end here. One is the 2023. So this is where I click if I am planning on starting the project in 2023. It's part of my goals, it's part of my plans, and I go ahead and I select that. Or when I purchase it, I'm like, this is something I really want to stitch, and so I go ahead and click that if I'm interested in making sure it gets done or started in 2023. For right now, Simon is not going to be on that start list because I have so many other of the steampunk sheep to still do. So for me, I'm going to currently leave it as 2023. And then I have this last button, which is captured. And then as soon as I click it, you will see it disappear. And all that means is that at that point in time, I have captured everything that I needed, and now it is done. And now, if I have another project to enter, I can go back and click at new. So that is where it is. So next, I am going to show you how I add files to the to the pattern from my phone. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little pause here and then splice that in, and we'll see if my editing magic works. So now we are on my phone. So here it is. Sorry, apologies for the ring light. Let me get rid of my little Facebook chat there. But so here we are on my Stitchy homepage. And now I'm going to show you how you can utilize your phone. So it is an app on your phone as well, and it's completely integrated. And so I'm just going to go ahead and scroll down and find Simon Limon. So in this particular case, because he's not really kind of easily accessible, I kind of just go through and I'm here in my cross stitch pattern library, and then I search for Simon. So there it is. I search for Simon. I know it's hard to see. And then you see that he popped up right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And then just like what you see in what you're going to see in the rest of the video, the whole page of the database shows up just like it does. I click on Files and Media here. There is a button that says Add Files. I click Add Files, Upload. So you choose your file. And earlier, I took a photo of the finished project, and now it is uploading. And there is the picture of Simon legit there. And that's it. I click Done. And now the file is located. Now, all being well, you're going to see in the next screen how it shows up seamlessly in the pattern. All right, so you just saw me upload the photo of Simon Legit's final in my phone, and now I'm back on my website. I'm here in my main cross-stitch pattern library, which you're going to see a little bit more detail in a second. I'm going to go ahead and go and search for Simon. You'll see him right here. Pop that open. Oops. Pop him open, side view, and then you'll see that right there his photo has been uploaded. So that's it. Pretty straightforward. It's instantaneous when you have it uploaded onto your phone or in your desktop. They integrate pretty much immediately. So that's it. Okay, so that is me having added a new pattern all the way through. So next up in my screen is what I have next is my project views. So this is where I have a list of all of the projects that I currently am working on. So these are my whips, and I have it sorted by when it got started. So my oldest whip is Cinderella Wishes Upon a Dream. And right now, currently, my newest whip is a Shimanchu Rabbit. And so that is how it's organized. And I have this as a tile so I can see the finished product here of what it will look like when it's completely stitched. And the way that I have it set up is that I have the hashtags listed so that way when I am posting on Instagram, I can go look in my Notion, see what hashtags I'm supposed to be using in the project. I have the name of the designer, the type of fabric I'm using, the name of the fabric, if it's what the status that it's in. The the fabric provider, and then the floss that I am using. And so with Cinderella Wishes Upon a Dream, everything was a kit from MCG Textiles, so that's why it says kit and kit. But for example, you can see under Lady Justice over here, I have it as Nora Corbett. I'm doing this on 32 count Lugana Coda Doves by Atomic Range Fabrics, and I'm using the called for DMC. And of course, if I'm using more than one floss, then it would get listed. Actually, I do not see any of my projects currently use different floss, so but they're all singular. But that is basically what it looks like. I also have it in different views here for me, so I also have the option to look at it by size. Sometimes I'm really interested in trying to work on a particular size, or there's a challenge that requires me to kind of look at the size. And so for me, I am able to go down and see, okay, I have these two smalls if I'm working on a small project. And so every once in a while, this is a useful way for me to look at it. Then I also have, as you recall, I had that button for 2023, and those are the projects that I really would like to work on. And so this is where I have them listed, and they are under, and I have them sorted by the status. So in this particular case, these are the projects I would like to start on as part of my goals in 2023, and they are currently kitted. And then I have projects that I would like to go ahead and start. They need to be kitted. You'll see that I haven't uploaded the images here. So as I just showed you how I upload a file under the on my phone, now I'm going to show you how I can upload a file using when it's on my computer. So this is Pew Pew Motherfuckers. So I click on that, it will open over here in the page, as you can see on the side. Now, of course, it needs to be kitted, so all of this is empty. So I'm going to, here's my files and media. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to choose a file. And here it is, I have a little folder here for upload to Notion. I scroll on down, I find the picture I want to open, I open that, and then it goes ahead and uploads it. Sometimes it takes a second, there it is, and then you see it automatically filled in the picture here, because that is how I have it set up for the tiles to work. And that is pretty much it. I have everything set up so that way when I do click on a project, it just opens up to the side, as you can see. And so that's it. Those are my project views, and I typically always just leave it on a whip side, and then I, again, as usual, when I am not working on that, I go ahead and click it down into that view. And then when I am working on projects and I'm moving things in and out, just to show you how easy it is to do, I actually had a new start in February of one of my two start projects. So I go ahead and I click on Hello Sunshine, which I started on, there it is, I started that on Valentine's Day. So I go ahead and click that. I change that out. I change the status from kitted to whip. Now, we're going to go ahead and change a couple of things here. It's 28 count weave-in weave, then it's not, it's just a white fabric. There's no designer, it's just a Swigart, I believe. And so we're going to go ahead and pick Swigart, and that is where it is. Now it's a caterpillar cross stitch, so I'm going to go ahead and put a caterpillar cross stitch, like their hashtags to be included. So I'm going to go ahead and include that. But as you see, what ended up happening, because here's that 2023, as you see what happens, I have it set up so that only the projects that are kitted or need to be kitted are included in my 2023 plans, because once they are moved into the whip status, it's no longer a plan, it's now in progress. So if I go back to showing it as being kitted, you see that it shows that back here, and then I can go ahead and change it again to that it's a whip. And now that it's a whip, I go under whip, and then I scroll down, and there is Hello Sunshine, and it's the very last tile because it is my newest whip in my list. So that's how easy it is. And so I just kind of go in and just take care of that. And so it becomes quite easy for me to take a look and see how many whips do I have in progress. And I have 14 in progress currently. Next up is the one that I use most frequently, which is going to be my Stitchy habits. And that impacts what is going on up here with my monthly updates. So let's go ahead and show you my Stitchy habits. Now I am going to, the way that I have it set up, now in full disclosure, I am still learning how to use Notion, and I think that when you watch other people's videos, not necessarily about cross-stitching or crafty notions, but other people who use the productivity, they will probably have some better techniques on how to track some of this information. But for me, the way that I kind of set it up right now, and of course it may change over the course of months, but as I have it set it up right now, this works for me and how I gather my data on a monthly basis. So my goal here is to track my stitching data so that way I am able to gather everything very quickly so that I can do my Flosstube videos on a monthly basis. And so every day that I stitch, I go in and I add an event. So I have 2 days to enter here for you. So for Monday and Tuesday of this week, the February 27th and February 28th, and I intentionally left 2 months to kind of show you. So for every project I do, I add a event. Now this is a separate database from my cross stitch database. This is a Stitchy Habits database, and so I enter the date at the top, and we'll see in a second why I have this date entered. I do a little check mark to show that I stitch, and right here you'll see this little arrow and it says project. That is connected to my cross stitch database. So when I click on here, I'm going to go ahead and say, so on this day I worked on Cinderella. Oops. And you can just start typing things in. Oops. You just type in something and it pops up. I tab over and then I enter how many stitches I've entered. Now this is also something I was trying to track some other things, whether or not I slept or read. That's not going to end up being happening. And then that's it. That's all that's done there for that project. I ended up working on 2 projects that day. And so again, because I worked on it on the 27th, I enter on the date, I stitched, and then I also worked on Lord Theodore. Type in Theodore, tap that over, and I put in 291 stitches. And that is it. And there you see my 2 projects that I worked on that day. And then on February 28th, just to finish this out, I put in again 228, then I stitch, and then I again stitched on Lord Theodore, and I put in 332 stitches on that day. So that is everything that we do. Now, what ends up happening is that there's a couple of things that can happen here. So when I enter into a project, because it's connected to my database, I can click on the project name there and it will go to the page. And so here's all of my information about the project, that it is, what size it is, what fabric I'm working on, and I also have a status down here. I have, so I started this in January, so here's my photos, and I just kind of go in and do that. I'm going to show you in a minute how I do that in a different project, but just so show you how everything is kind of connected. And then you tap this over and it goes away. And you can set things up differently. I have it set up to where it shows up on the side, but you can have it set up that it automatically goes to the page, or it does just a pop-up window at the top. So there it is. That's all of my February stitching. And you see on the days that are empty, those are days that I didn't stitch. So I don't put anything in there. So that is my Stitchy Habits. I usually go in about once a week because, as you know, I keep a paper planner. I'm old, and so I like a paper planner. And so I just do that. And then I just go in about once every couple of days, and I just enter it there. Now, I'm showing you this on a laptop, but as you already saw earlier, you can do a lot of this on your phone as well. I just prefer to do it on my computer because it's just a little bit easier for me. And then that's it. I've got all my Stitchy Habits entered, and now I toggle that back down. So we scroll back up and we can take a look at my monthly updates. Now, effectively, I do this for Flosstubes, but sometimes you just want to track your own data. And so you go in, and here is February. And it's already set up for me where all I can do is, I do have a little template here where I can add that in, but sometimes, honestly, I just duplicate it. I find it a lot easier just to duplicate it, and then I just change the name to the next month. For me, that's easy. I go ahead and pick a new icon. Let's go with a clover because it's March and it's St. Patrick's Day happens, and we're all Irish in March, right? And then I go ahead and I change the date. Oops. Oops. Oh, sorry. Here's the date. I go ahead and I change the date to the next month. I do know how to do this. And then you go ahead and do that. And then that's it. And then as you can see, I don't have anything here because I haven't entered anything. And then I just go ahead and I delete. And everything is now ready for me to start over for March. But let's go ahead and go back to February. So here's February. And then what you can see is that, again, I have it set up for that way. My rule is that it's looking for projects between February and in the month of February. And what you see here is the day that I worked on a project, the name of the project I worked on, and then the stitch count. Now, sometimes I work on a project, but I don't count for that day. So I know I stitched on Lady Justice on February 1st and 2nd, but my total count for both of those days is 291. So that is how it's set up. And so I happen to know that I do that, and that's perfectly okay. But then what you see when you scroll on down is I have it so that it counts. So I know that my unique numbers is that I stitch out of the 28 days, I stitch for 23 days, and that is the reason why I have these dates in here. And then I worked on 8 unique projects in the course of this month. And then my total stitch count for February is 7,830. And of course you can always scroll, you can move things around, and that's it. And now what I end up doing, and this is where I think that some people who may use Notion a little bit better than I do know how to kind of work this a little bit. I haven't quite figured out how to kind of get everything linked in the way that so I can get the unique counts. But what I end up doing is that I know that I have these projects, and so using Lady Justice as an example, I go ahead and I look for that, and then what ends up happening is that I can see that in the month of February, I worked on Lady Justice for 3 days for a total, which is right here, unique 3 days, and then I put in 404 stitches, and then I make notes of that. Well, typically I make a note of it in my paper binder, but there's no real reason for me not to go ahead and make a note of it someplace else. So let's actually just show you how to do that. Live changes. So you'll see how easy it is to use Notion. Again, there is a learning curve to it, so don't feel like you have to know all of this. So we'll go ahead and do a heading. We'll go ahead and get everything to match what I have on here. And it's like monthly summary. So we'll do that. And I'm going to go ahead and move this up to the top. And you can kind of basically learn all the shortcuts, but we're going to go ahead and do a bulleted list. And then now I know I worked on Lady Justice for 3 days, 404 exits. And that's it. And then I can kind of just go through and change all of that. I happen to know I worked on Cinderella, which is Upon a Dream. And so in this particular case, I worked on Cinderella, which is Upon a Dream, for a total of 12 days. And I put in 3,032 stitches. And you can just go forth and just continue to do that. And so, but I'm going to show you now another thing that I do, and then you just click it out, and then everything goes back to the original filters. Now, I did talk about showing you how I utilize and update my information. And so here is Shimanchu Rabbit, and here, now you can easily do all of this in the sidebar without doing anything, without needing to go into the main page, but sometimes you want to open it up into a full page. So I'm going to go ahead and open it into a full page. And so here is all of my projects, and what I do is I like to post a picture of my progress, and here it is. I'm just going to go ahead and again do another heading. This is February 2023. I think I have the wrong size heading, but that's okay. You can easily convert it if you want. I'll correct all that later. But so there it is. It's there's my new heading, and then I can go into my picture that I want to upload for my progress, and then I just drag it in. And there it is. And there is my work in progress picture for Shimanchu Rabbit for the month of February. And then you can just go back and just go backwards to where the previous page, and then that's it. Again, pretty darn easy. Now, again, for what's going on with my February updates, what I also include is I go ahead and write down things that I purchased for the month, and then Flosstubers that I watch. I'm not very good at updating this, I will admit. I have a lot of appointment Flosstubers, so anyone who, so typically I end up using this as new Flosstubers that I want to mention in my Flosstube. This is where I will kind of list them. But that's how I basically prepare for my Flosstubes and how I track everything. Now going back home to my stitching page, there's a couple of other things here. I have my 2023 goals and my 24-hour cross stitch and then my database. So going into my 2023 goals, I do have this set up for various things. I don't have a lot of goals for the year, but I really wanted to finish Cinderella, finish the Hello series by Caterpillar Cross Stitch, finish the season series by Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. I have a personal goal of to reach 1,000 subscribers on Flosstube, and then finish the 2021 start project. So any project I started in 2021, I'd like to finish in 23, and then for finish Sailor Venus in my Sailor Moon Squad. So these are my goals, and then underneath each of them, I do have them broken out into specific tasks. So that way when I can go in and take a look where I am in my goals. And so I happen to know that I've reached a couple of goals so far in February. Excuse me for a sec. And so one of the goals I have is to finish Cinderella Wishes Upon a Dream. And I have two goals listed under here, which is page 3 and page 4. I happen to have finished page 3 in February. So I'll go in, click on Done, and then you'll see it automatically converted to 50% over here as a little visualization of where I am in the goal. And then now, this is now in progress. So excited to work on that. And I click on that as being done. And so there is where I am on the Cinderella Wishes Upon a Dream. I wanted to finish the Hello series. I only have one project remaining in that, which is Hello Sunshine. I have now started that, so that is now in progress. And so very excited about that. Now, for Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, I do have the season series. Again, I have not started any of those. And then finishing my projects here for my 21 projects, I have those listed in here, so that way I know what projects I'm working on, and that is where they are. And so that's it. That's really basically how I use my goals. Again, I only go in when I actually have something in here. The way that I track my subscribers is that I kind of go in and it's out of 100. And so I'm currently at about 600 subscribers. So I can go in and do that, and then I just update it there, and that's how I see a visualization of where I am in my stitching goals. Back to my home page. Not much to show you in 24-hour planner because I'm still kind of working on it, but just as a tease, I kind of have it set up where I have the dates in there. I was going to try to put together a schedule of what projects I was going to work on in the hours, and do I have snacks that I need to purchase? And so that's kind of where it is. And what I have done is I have embedded a playlist in my 24-hour cross stitch, so that way when I'm working on this, I can just be in here watching my YouTube playlist, and then I can just scroll up, look and see what I'm working on, make updates, and I don't have to toggle between two different pages and things like that. And of course, because it is YouTube, I can set it up so that way it goes ahead and casts onto the TV if I need to. And so again, a work in progress, and hopefully next time that I have a 24-hour cross stitch and I got everything planned, I'll be able to show you in a video at that time of how I was able to use the Notion. And then last but not least, let me show you my database. So this is where I link to my big databases. You are also able to kind of see things over here where everything is kind of put in there, but I do keep my database in a completely separate spot. So I do have that linked out, and these are some databases that Flosstube is currently not being utilized, but that Stitchy habit is the habits that you just saw. So This is where you can see the whole thing if there's any need for me to go back and take a look at that. But again, I use all of that on my homepage. But here is my big pattern library. And from here, it's everything. Here is my all. I can see everything in a list format. It's alphabetical. I can just kind of go through, look at everything. I have it where my 2023 projects all the way through. And you can see that I have a total of 117 projects in here and kind of going forward. And then you can see everything there. Okay, then I have it based on a list of my whips. Again, you can just kind of change the looks and things like that. Again, I don't really work in the database very frequently, but again, here's all my whips. I have it set up so that I can go in and look based on size and the status. So whip, kitted, need to kit, finish. I have FFO and UFO hidden because typically I'm just using this as a way to note what needs to still be done. And so under my BAPs, you can see that I have 2 projects that are whips. I have 3 that are kitted and ready to start, and I have 4 that are BAPs that need to be kitted right here. Okay, and so, and then of course there is a finish if I need to go ahead and FFO it. Okay, and then right here is my status where I'm able to see my everything in terms of a status. And then last but not least, these are my finishes of projects that I've already finished. And again, everything is here is listed as a list as opposed to in the tiles, which is how it's set up in my Stitchy homepage, right? And then so over here, I'm going to go back to my Stitchy homepage, and that is it. That is my tour. So be right back. That's it, everyone. I hope that you found that enjoyable, interesting. Do you use Notion? Are you thinking about using Notion now? In full confession, again, I think I mentioned this at the beginning, there is a learning curve to it. Don't expect to be able to do everything all at once. I'm a firm believer in using YouTube videos to learn how to do it. A lot of what I've figured out how to do, these roll-ups, connecting databases to databases and all that, I really did just kind of watch videos that did step-by-steps, and that's how I learned. So don't, it does take time to kind of get used to it. And I definitely have started and stopped and deleted things and started over. So don't feel, committed to anything. I don't know if it's worthwhile for me to create a template. I haven't created a template for what I just did. Again, it's kind of specific to me, but if you think it would be, I'm happy to learn how to make a template and share that with everybody. But if you're using Notion, let me know. If you're not using Notion, is there another rabbit hole I need to go investigate? I'm kind of curious how people organize all of their information. So with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Until then, I hope you're having a stitchy good time.